The smell was the first thing that gave it away. I stood at the edge of the hall watching as the congregation gathered around the altar. They called it the Holy Feast, a sacred ritual that only the most devout were invited to witness. The bishop's wife, resplendent in her crimson robes, stood at the center, her arms raised high as she called for silence. "Brothers and sisters," she intoned, her voice rich and commanding, "tonight we partake in the divine. Tonight we are chosen." The crowd murmured in awe, their eyes shining with a mix of reverence and hunger. I wanted to believe it too. I wanted to believe that what we were about to do was holy, that it would bring us closer to God. But the stench that lingered in the air told a different story. The bishop's wife began to chant, her voice weaving an otherworldly melody that made the hair on the back of my neck stand on end. Others joined in, their voices rising in a haunting harmony that seemed to vibrate through the very walls. The altar was unveiled, and there it was, the so-called bread of divinity, a dark, glistening mass that oozed a foul liquid. I felt my stomach turn, but no one else seemed to notice. They knelt before the altar, their faces alight with unshakable faith. The bishop's wife approached the altar with a golden chalice, filling it with a thick, murky liquid drawn from a concealed basin at its base. The smell grew stronger, more acrid, as she held the chalice high. "This is the blood of our salvation," she declared, her eyes locking with mine. "Drink and be empowered." I froze, the world tilting around me. Salvation? The liquid in that chalice smelled like sewage. When the first congregant drank, I nearly retched. He gulped it down with fervor, his face contorting as though something else, something unseen, was taking hold of him. His body convulsed, and then he rose, trembling, his eyes burning with an unnatural light. "Praise be," he cried, his voice trembling with ecstasy. One by one they followed, each drinking, each convulsing, each rising with the same fiery glow in their eyes. My heart pounded as I watched, a sickening realization dawning on me. This wasn't divine. This was something else, something dark. The bishop's wife approached me, her smile serene and terrifying. "Do you not trust in the power of the feast?" she asked, her tone almost gentle. I... My voice faltered. Every instinct screamed at me to run, but the eyes of the congregation were on me, their gazes heavy with expectation. She leaned closer, her voice dropping to a whisper. "This is the way to true power. To deny it is to deny your destiny." I looked at the chalice, at the vile liquid that reeked of decay, and then at the faces around me. They weren't just worshippers. They were something else now. Something changed. Their devotion wasn't to God, but to something older, darker, and infinitely more dangerous. As I hesitated, the bishop's wife's expression hardened. "Drink," she commanded, her voice laced with menace. My hands shook as I took the chalice, the weight of it far heavier than it should have been. The liquid sloshed inside, and for a moment, I saw something move in its depths, a shadow, a whisper of something alive. I raised it to my lips, the smell overwhelming, and as the first drop touched my tongue, a flood of images overtook me. Blood, screams, fire, and a throne carved from bone. The truth hit me like a blow. This wasn't salvation. This was damnation. I stumbled back, the chalice falling from my hands and shattering on the stone floor. Gasps echoed through the hall as the liquid spread, its foul stench filling the air. The bishop's wife's eyes burned with fury. "You dare reject the feast?" she hissed, her voice no longer human. "I know what this is," I said, my voice trembling but defiant. "This isn't holy. This is corruption. This is betrayal." The congregation surged toward me, their movements unnatural, their faces twisted with rage. The bishop's wife raised her arms, and the shadows in the room seemed to come alive, reaching for me with clawed hands. But I ran. I didn't stop until I was far from the church, my heart pounding and my lungs burning. The night air was sharp and cold, washing away the stench that clung to me. But the images wouldn't leave, nor would the knowledge of what I had seen. They called it a legacy, a gift, but it was a curse, a pact with something monstrous. And they didn't even know what they were eating, what they were drinking, what they were becoming. I looked back at the dark silhouette of the church, its spire piercing the sky like a blade. I had escaped, But I knew they wouldn't stop. The feast would continue, and the world would pay the price.